Grand Rising and welcome to Newmind, where our intention is clear and is to share information for transformation. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. I truly appreciate your time and your energy to be here with me today. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe. My intention is to keep this engaging, to keep this informative, and also just to have a bit of visual, because I know a lot of you guys love to see rather than listen. If you're listening to this on the stream, thank you also for being here. So guys, this is one of the most, I would say, really important topics and something that has shaped my own personal journey and life, and also something that I've always had a real interest in, because, you know, we hear about it a lot, but we don't even know if it's real, if it's not, if it's just a trend, because people talk about manifestation a lot, manifesting, what do you need to do? But I really wanted to take you guys in, and the approach is from a neuroscience approach and from actually practical tools that has impacted both my life and the life of all the high performers and clients I've worked with all around the world, and how it has actually transformed them where they can manifest, truly manifest what they desire. So here I'm about really jumping into the quantum element of it, but also the quantum manifestation and rewiring your brain to create the reality you want. And I'm going to start with this question, okay? Is manifestation real, or is it just wishful thinking? And a lot of the time over the years, of course, this is an area that my clients always, when they come to me, is like, okay, now that I'm in alignment, now that I've worked on myself, I want to manifest these things. And manifestation, I think it just has, in some cases, a negative context, a negative association with that word. But at the end of the day, manifestation, depending on what we're talking about, it's really just about creating a vision and making it a reality, right? So creating a vision in the mind and ultimately experiencing that reality in your lifetime, right? So it's important to demystify this. It's not the manifestation of, you know, sitting in meditation or humming and then, you know, I'm going to be a millionaire and waking up and finding $1 million. That's all nonsense, right? It's really about a formula. And when I say it's about a formula, I literally mean it's actually steps that you follow. And if you follow the steps, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys in today's podcast, and you implement those steps, they're going to allow you to truly manifest what you want. And guys, when I speak from this area, I speak with experience in terms of the mentors I've worked with over the years, and I've been very privileged to work with top mentors around the world who have taught the science and have taught me the dynamics of what is required for true manifestation. From the likes of my institute, RSCI, Robert Simich, to understanding our neurology, all the way to Dr. Joe Dispenza, to understanding the quantum field, understanding the world of energetics, understanding how the neuroscience as well. So these are some of the mentors that have guided me through the process of true manifestation, what it means to create something that is once in the mind, in your mind's eye, and then becomes a true manifestation, a reality that you can actually live. And I'm speaking from the lens of, a certified master practitioner and master coach. I'm not speaking from a lens of someone that, tried something and it worked. I'm approaching it with you guys today with real science and real steps that will help you in the form of reconditioning the mind for manifestation, right? For achieving that. And understanding the science behind manifestation for me is super important, because like I said, there's too much noise in online. There's too much noise of people just, selling the word manifestation, but they don't even know what they're talking about. And my intention in today's episode is really to get to the bottom of this, but also give you guys some insights, some real tips that if you apply it, it will work for you. It will actually move the needle in the direction that you want. And, understanding how our brain is wiring from a psychological process, which actually shapes our reality. Understanding neuroplasticity, how thought patterns physically rewire the brain, right? And a lot of people, unfortunately, of course, it's either not their domain or they're unaware of it, but Just the term neuroplasticity is something I would encourage you to understand and look and read about and learn about. But neuroplasticity, the old paradigm was that we were unable and we are hardwired and we cannot change, versus the new paradigm of way of thinking, the new understanding of neuroplasticity and how our thought patterns literally, physically rewire the brain. So we can change the way our brain looks. We can change how our brain perceives reality. We can change how our brain focuses on certain things in our life. And understanding the RAS, the reticular activating system. This is also another important element to understanding the neuroscience of how we are wired, why we focus, why what we focus on expands, and what we start noticing, right? The opportunities that align with our intention. It's important that the internal perceptions and the way we're wired is almost like a Google search engine. So if we're wired to focus on certain things that don't serve us, or if we're wired for distraction, or if we're wired for a negative way of thinking, that's the process that we continue seeing reality through, right? That's the job of RAS. Its job is to continue feeding you what you're focusing on and finding more of it all the time. That's why belief systems come into a big play when it comes to manifestation, because if you don't believe you can achieve what you're looking to achieve, the brain won't even show you the possibility and opportunity that's actually a potential for you to create and to manifest in your life, right? And understanding that if my focus filters and my RAS is focused on things that are not serving me, that's the stress, and cortisol versus the flow and creativity, right? And why certain brains and people perform differently based on their emotional state. There's a whole biological, chemical reaction that's happening in the body based on how your brain is filtering data and information of your reality, which feeds into your emotional state. And that's a whole different realm when we talk about emotional state, because your emotional state is emotions, it's energy in motion, it's a feeling in the body, right? That feeling in the body, that energy in the body, what actually starts to dictate your reality and dictate your behavior, which I call the state of being, right? Because your state dictates, which is how you think and how you feel, which dictates your behavior, which produce the results in your life. Ultimately, your manifestation that you want to manifest in your life is a result. And what you're aiming to do is match the behavior of your reality to produce that result in life, to make it a fruition, to bring it into perspective, to bring it to life. So all these little elements that I'm talking about, they add to the formula. They add to the bigger picture of someone, first of all, thinking it, in the mind's eye, the universe is mental, which everything starts in the mind, then taking the actions and steps and having the right energy to bring that into fruition. So it's not magic, it's very much practical. But there is an element of perception. There is an element of energy. Yes, there is an element of how your brain is wired. There's an element of your belief system. All of these have a massive factor in manifesting and how long those manifestations show up in your life, right? So what I wanted to do in this episode, and this is going to be a deep episode, so please stay tuned till the end. Maybe you might even need to watch this or listen to this a few times, because my intention is to really give you some solid insight and tips and information that's going to help you if you apply them, of course. But if you're just listening and you're not taking action, that's also a problem that stands in the way of manifestation, right? So let's begin with step number one. And step number one for any form of manifestation is to get clear on what you want and why. Because a lot of the time, and I see this all the time working with my clients, they really don't know what they want. They just want something, but they don't know exactly what it is. They don't have a clear vision, a clear reality of what that outcome is, what's that manifestation. But more importantly, the why as well. Like, why do you want that in your life? The why is super important, because we might think we want something, but when we really reflect, it's actually not what we want. We want something else, right? So step one is getting clear on what you want and your why, because clarity, what it does, it activates the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision making, the planning in the brain. So you need to understand how your brain works. So when you get clarity, it does that activation. And without clarity, the brain wastes energy. And with clarity, it builds motivation circuits, right? So you have to have clarity as step one. Like, don't even start trying to do anything unless you have clarity of what it is that you want to create for yourself, and have a very deep understanding of why you want it as well, right? In order for something to come into your life, you have to have the vision and have the why. So a little tip for you guys here is to write down the specific manifestation that you want and start to connect them to a deeper purpose of why you want it to show up in your life. You know, I'll give you an example. Like, a lot of times when I work with clients, they want, for example, which is, again, they want to excel, they want to have abundance. And abundance, most clients think it's just money. There's other forms of abundance, but let's just say in this context is money. They want more money. Great. Why do you want to make more money? Why? No, I just want to have more money. No, that's not enough. Why do you want that specific amount to show up in your bank account monthly or annually? What are you going to do with that money? This is super important, because if you don't connect the dots, you're not connecting with the deeper purpose of it, then it just gets lost, and it doesn't give those motivation circuits that I'm talking about in the brain. So understanding that fundamental step before doing anything is getting clear on what it is you want. Okay. And step two for me is, this is what I do. This is my specialty. This is why it's super important to really understand that it's like a formula, right? The formula of this manifestation we're talking about, right? And step two is all about the belief system, and to believe that you are worthy of having it. Because a lot of times we want certain things in our life, the manifestations and the money and the abundance and the freedom and the cars and the material world or the relationships, whatever that is. But if you dig in, and that's what I find a lot with the students and clients I work with, is when you dig into that, you find out that there's a little bit of a block, a little bit of, I don't believe I'm worthy of having it. You know, so self-worth links to the neural pathways of confidence and self-belief. So you have to make sure that that is in alignment. That's working well in the brain. It's working well in the mind. Remember, the mind is the software. The brain is the hardware. So you need to have that in sync, right? That's why I love reconditioning the mind, because what I'm doing when I recondition the mind, I'm actually reconditioning the brain at the same time, because they're interconnected, right? It's the neural pathways in the brain. It's the way of thinking and feeling, and what wires together fires together, as Dr. Joe Dispenza used to say, or continues to say. So it's super important. That's also in neuroscience. It's not just Dr. Joe Dispenza, for the record. That's a very common terminology that is used in neuroscience. What wires together fires together, in terms of the neural pathways in our brain. So understanding the belief system and the self-worth and how important that is for conditioning your brain and your mind is super important. Because once you've established that, once you've got that right, and I do that through modalities and tools, once you've conditioned the brain and the mind in believing that you are worthy of what it is you want to manifest, then you can start to layer in, these positive affirmations, the mental rehearsals, which I call priming, which then strengthens those circuits in the brain. I always, use these examples as elite athletes use visualization, not just for skills, but to condition the self-belief as well, that they can actually achieve that moment in time, that they can see themselves scoring or winning, or whatever that is. But by a mental rehearsal, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and not, and the body starts to feel it. The chemicals reaction in the body, the biochemicals, that all starts to feed, and the energy, it starts to feed that has already happened. And how powerful is that when you believe and you feel that future experience already now? That's reconditioning self-worth, which basically opening the brain to receive. That's super, super important. So I'm emphasizing on step 2 because, as I mentioned, step 2 is super, super important because you need to be able to have that element of belief in your nervous system, which helps rewiring the brain and start to recognize the potential. And of course, the energy that comes with it, because energy is in the body, right? And obviously, then comes step 3. And step 3 should be no surprise for you, but it's all about bridging action, right? It's super, super important when we talk about bridging action or taking action is what can I do on a day-to-day basis that is quite simple, clear, and low-hanging fruit for me that will recondition my mind and keep me focused on the outcome that I want. Keep me focused on the manifestation that I want. What are those actions and behaviors? So identifying them, being clear with them, and then implementing them on a day-to-day basis. Now, one of the things that I teach at my practice, I coach my practice, is the priming your mind, priming your brain, which is reconditioning your brain and your body, visualization, and the emotional alignment, that feeling of the future in advance and here and now. And that's part of the practice of, priming the brain, which Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks about quite a bit. And I've had the privilege of being in the room with him and actually going through his meditations and understanding the elements that help prime the brain. And that form of priming, that time or allocation on a day-to-day basis, helps you create some form of consistency. So as much as it's important to take action in your outer world, you have to also take action in your inner world. And what I mean by that is priming itself, is giving the taste for the mind and the body and the brain of that future outcome here and now, because it allows you to start taking action and less distraction towards what you want. And I say distraction a lot, if you've noticed, because distraction is where we are becoming professionals at in this world. A lot of us are always distracted by our phone, by everything distracts us very quickly. We become professionals in distraction. So what's the alternative is focus. How to focus your mind, how to focus your attention. Because if you don't know how to focus your attention and focus your mind, then you are moving slowly nowhere. You keep interrupting your flow. And that's what disrupts consistency. So being disciplined by allocating time daily to remind your brain and body and focus your attention and with intention to the future outcome you want will create these new default patterns. And that's the difference between thinking about it once versus living it daily in the thought and feeling process. Because sometimes I want to manifest this. And what do you want to manifest? Yeah, that's what I want. But then 90% of the day, it's not in the thought process. It's distracted, not focused, not giving attention or intention with where you're going and why you want to achieve what you want to achieve, right? Remember starting the steps. This is a very important step, which is taking action. But I'm talking about taking action internally as well as taking action externally. But you got to remind the body and mind, the mind mapping it, that priming. This is what's going to help you take the steps forward. So when you, in your waking state, when you open your eyes, you already have an idea and you're calibrated towards the outcome you want. And it becomes easier for you to take the actions. It becomes easier for you to do the good habits and behaviors because it matches that future self here and now. And what you're doing is you're connecting the dots between the future self and your current self. And that bridges the gap, collapsing space-time. And you merge into that future self much more faster, much more efficient, and much more quicker to manifest the outcomes you want. But one thing I found, and this is important that I'm adding as a step as well, which is step 4. So step 4 here is understanding, which is really, really important, that you have to have an attitude of trust the process and allow yourself to enter into flow. See, most of the time where frustration happens when it comes to manifestation, and someone could be so close at bringing it into life, but then almost pulling it away from themselves, is really the element of being very rigid about the outcome happening at a certain time, at a certain place, in a certain way. And that creates resistance. That creates expectation. That creates disappointment. So that creates so many things that almost stand in the way from that manifesting into your life, that outcome that you want. So letting go of excessive control is super important, because what it does, it also reduces the cortisol in the body, the stress that we talk about, right? Most people are stressed and most people are unhappy. And by the way, on the note of unhappiness, let's just take a little side note here. What is the unhappiness that most people face? The reason that shows up in their life, the unhappiness that they have, is the gap. It's the gap between their future self, their soul, the higher self, whatever you want to call it, that future self, the vision, and where they are now, because the state they're in now and the gap of where they want to be is where people find sense of unhappiness. Because they've created that vision, they've created that future self, but they continue focusing on the fact that they're not there, and the gap between the future self of what they're meant to be, and they know they're meant to be there or achieve that, is where unhappiness comes into play. So an antidote to that is, yes, following the steps that I'm talking about, but also just entering more flow, letting go of that rigidness that has to happen a certain way, and letting go of the outcome that like it has to happen then and there, right? But what you do is you rather focus on the now, focus on taking the action now, doing the inner work, rehearsal, doing the outer work, and just focusing on the now and doing the best you can with the resources you have now, because that's all you have control over. All you have control over is the now moment. And when you really understand that, you start to go, it takes off pressure off your shoulders, and you just can simply go, am I doing the best I can now? Am I focusing my attention and energy on what I want now? Because all you have is now. And now moment, and doing the best you can, taking action, of course. And just that sort of flow allows for creativity. It allows for intuition to emerge. It allows for inspiration to show up into your life. And this is really important, because a lot of the time we forget that this is part of the manifestation, is letting go and surrendering. People don't like to surrender, but this is key. Because, maybe in the future episode, I'll go deeper into the world of the quantum model of reality, the world of energetics. But if you have a specific expectation and you're not happy until that shows up and so forth, your vibrational frequency, your state is always saying, I lack that, I don't have that, I'm not happy until it happens, until it shows up. And we lose the passion and the process and in love with the journey rather than the outcome. And that's where most people fall into that trap. But when you know what the vision is, which is clarity, and you're taking actions day by day, every day, better than yesterday, that 1% model, just slowly taking action and being okay if it happens at a specific time, maybe 6 months later, maybe 6 months before, maybe 2 months. It doesn't matter, as long as you are in the trajectory, because it can happen so quick and so fast. As long as you are in control of what you're in control of, which is the now moment, which is taking action now and focusing on and doing the best to your ability here and now. But you guys know this, when you're in that relaxation flow state, that creativity, that intuition that I'm talking about, that's where most of the time best ideas come up when you're relaxed, not when you're forcing it, not when it has to happen this way or that way. That like I don't know about you guys, but the best ideas I get is when I'm in the shower. Like literally when I'm in the shower, I just know I'm going to go into this flow state, especially under the shower. And I'm just I just get these incredible ideas. Of course, walking sometimes also reflects that as long as I'm not on my phone, because I do have the habit to be on my phone when I'm walking, listening to a podcast. Sometimes I want to just put my phone in the pocket and I'm just like walking with a clear mind, and those tends to help. But obviously the best is to just quiet the mind, to center yourself through meditation or through breath practices, which almost activates that inspiration, that intuition. I always say, I call it, I'm inspired as in spirit, because that's when you're in your peak performance. That's when you trust, and that's when you when you trust and you're calm, and specifically in the physiological aspect of it for the body, that's where you can rewire the nervous system for resilience. You rewire the nervous system for patience, right? So those are important sort of, I'm giving you the micro and then the macro, the steps. And now we want to move into step 5. We're at step 5 right now, which is integration. Integration is super important, and that's about consistency, because consistency, in my opinion, is everything. So when you understand that final or one of the important steps is having a form of consistency, that has to be at the forefront of what you're doing, right? So, and if you understand that manifestation isn't about just do these things and it's going to show up. No, it's a combination of everything we're talking about. And integration is the ability to sit with what your mind and what your emotional body is sharing with you. The ability to face it, to process it, to take the lessons from whatever those things that are showing up in your life. And again, I want you to remember, manifestation isn't just do this and it's going to happen. No, it's a combination of multiple things. And all these steps that I've shared with you guys, they must be lived consistently for the brain to fully rewire. That's why it's a combination of things, but they all require a sense of consistency, a sense of clarity, a sense of direction. That's how we started with the clarity at the beginning, the why. Then we move into the other stages, which I shared with you, or the other steps. And those are important. Those are the things that I'm sharing with you guys, because it's literally what works, and it's worked for me, and it's worked for my clients. When I work with my clients and my students, we're always getting very clear at the start of what it is that we want to bring into life. What is it that we want to change? I won't work with anyone if they don't have clarity, and that's super important. I bring clarity to the table because we have an objective. We need to achieve that objective. Whatever that manifestation, whatever that shift, whatever that breakthrough is, this is important and it's key. Otherwise, how do we know we're moving? And this is training your mind, literally training your mind, which I call reconditioning. It's not wishful hoping, right? And when we comprehend that, when we understand it's not wishful, it's work that requires manifestation, it's taking action, it's surrender, it's everything I spoke of. This is where we really become true conscious creators and manifestors of our life. So for me, manifestation, it's simple. It equals science of how the brain works, plus discipline, plus belief. I'll repeat that one more time. Manifestation equals the science, the discipline, and the belief. You need these three together, and you need the steps that I mentioned that will create that. So if you're ready to recondition your mind and live a life of clarity, freedom, and alignment, this is my invite, guys. This is an episode to give you a taste and a flavor. All of these elements will go deeper in the episodes to come, because I've got a lot of DMs from you guys who are asking about, let's deep into manifestation, let's go deeper into it. And honestly, this is just going to be the beginning. I want to go deeper into each realm and really go deeper as we go forward. And as I mentioned, this is a two-way conversation. The more you guys feed me of what it is you want, what is it you want to focus on, I'm happy to dive deeper, because I want this to be a two-way communication. I want this to be engaging, specifically when I'm doing my solo podcast. So guys, please subscribe to the Newmind podcast. If you're watching this or listening to this, this is how you help the movement and you join the movement and you be part of this tribe, especially my YouTube page. It's a new page. My stream is doing unbelievably well. I'm so grateful. I've got listeners from all around the world, literally from all around the world, and it's been beautiful. But my YouTube page is something I'm commencing and I'm starting because I want you guys to engage more. And I like shooting sometimes in the studio here in Dubai and just to create some more content for you guys that I feel sometimes we like to watch. And hopefully you enjoy my voice and face features so that helps you engage a little bit more. But let's wrap up with this, guys. Manifestation isn't wishful thinking. It does require action. It requires intention and attention. And if you apply what I shared with you guys today, this will be a sort of framework for you to start and to get you where you want to be. And like I said, guys, this is a two-way conversation. Feel free to reach out, to DM me, to ask me any questions about what I shared today. Anything you want me to go deeper in, I'm more than happy to share. This is why I've created this podcast. It's all about sharing. And I believe in life is too short to hog onto things that has worked for us. We live in an age of abundance. Everyone deserves the right to be free, to create the life they want. In my opinion, if there's more people creating the life they want, this world would be a better place. Everyone would be happier. Everyone would get along and move away from envy, move away from comparing themselves to others, move away from being unhappy, but rather being happy and living in their true and full potential. So again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this or listen to this. I appreciate you. Much love and positive energy.